every business owner on earth values one thing: having a successful business. Success is defined individually by the business owner, but they still want success. And if you can connect the dots that you, as an accounting professional, can help them have a successful business, you will get a high-paying client.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Tax Rep Network podcast. I'm Eric Green. I'm joined again today by Adam Lean. Adam is the founder of the CFO Project. So, Adam, I've been talking about now for a while, automating your practice. And because automated bookkeeping, automated returns, the tax pros are kind of falling into two camps, right? They're falling into, oh my God, the sky is falling, into it's taking my job. I don't know why they're doing this. And then I had Joe Woodard on, I think it was actually 2 years ago, where Joe said, Eric, this is either the sky is falling or an unbelievable opportunity.
Yeah.
Because if you can automate that, people look at, oh, I can get rid of my staff. But the thing is, you can go get more clients. You can add advisory services, real value-added services.
Right.
CFO services being, to me, one of the obvious ones. I mean, I'm an IRS rep, we have CFO, and just all the tax planning you can do. And so for those folks who hadn't heard the prior episode, first of all, describe what is the CFO Project?
Yeah, the CFO Project, we are just a training and mentorship program to help accountants and bookkeepers and EAs, tax professionals, start or add a CFO advisory practice, a service to their practice. What makes us different, though, is we do not advocate for fractional CFO work. We advocate for what we call productized CFO work, which actually fits in with kind of what you're talking about with the automation. The problem with fractional CFO work is that everything's highly customized, and every client you take on is going to feel like a part-time job, and it's not scalable, meaning you get a new client, you will increase your revenue, but your cost, mainly your time, goes up in tandem, and you can't delegate it, and it's not scalable, it's not repeatable. Whereas productized CFO advisory work, we call it that because we suggest that you sell it like a product to a business owner who knows nothing about accounting. They don't know the difference between accounting and a good accountant and a bad accountant. They just know that you know numbers, and they would rather you help them have a better tomorrow rather than just recording the past.
Right.
So if you can speak in very clear terms about what a CFO advisory service is, they'll hire you. So in other words, sell it like a product, like toothpaste. Colgate, they've come up with a formula once, they manufacture it millions of times a year. But when somebody walks into the store and they see a tube of Colgate sitting on the shelf, they know exactly what it is, why they're going to buy it, what they'll get from it, and how much it costs. That's exactly how we need to position some sort of advisory service to a client. So we need to sell it like a product, like toothpaste. It needs to be crystal clear. You hire me, and you'll know exactly why you're hiring me, what you'll get from it, how much it costs.
It is, in a way, Don Brolin, I've had Don Brolin on, and we talk about you train your client. So if you come in, look, I'm a fractional CFO, what do you need? Now it becomes a part-time job because now they're kind of, and they don't even know what they're talking about, right? I just think I need, right? Versus if I'm understanding it, you come in and say, look, I will do A, B, C for you. And the benefit is, right? I'll tell you this. Right now, I have the Success Tax podcast with Tony Carter. Thankfully, you're coming on. Actually, we'll be at Scaling New Heights in Orlando in 2 weeks. So Tony and I are actually looking at a business. They need help scaling. The broker, God bless him, he's a sweet guy who's in between, doesn't know what he's doing. And he's making it. And so finally, Tony and I had a conversation. Tony called him and said, look, the clown show comes to an end. Right? Here's what needs to happen. This business has to scale. We need to look at manufacturing. You keep saying you could do 1,000 a day. They're selling like 200 a month. How? Show me. Where are the numbers? And so we kind of literally, and we told them, we don't mean this to be mean, but we had to push the broker out of the fucking way to start getting the owner. And the owner said, well, this is what I've been waiting for. I'm like, well, I don't know how the broker's thinking, but the point being, where we are going in with this is what has to be done versus this sort of meandering. we were talking before we went live about consultants, how they might be good some of the time, but usually not. And they come in and they regurgitate because they don't
business brokers.
They just give you some ideas, right? Half of which might not even make sense. Here, we need to execute. If you're listening to this, you're probably thinking, no, I need to execute. And to avoid now just, and I found this out with, be careful what you wish for. When I started my law practice, I was like, more clients, more billing. Be careful what you wish for. If you read my book, The $1 Million Practice, I was just updated. I opened with a real conversation I had with Brett Robertson from Fathom, which is a consulting group here in West Hartford, where I said, everything's great. Why am I so miserable? Right? But here, what you're talking about doing, and you teach them how to do this, right? I mean, the folks that come into the CFO project, how to position this and then go sell that.
That's right. The key is in order to sell anything to anybody, you have to sell the end result. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that the accounting profession has had over the years is because accountants talk like accountants to business owners who are not accountants.
Right.
And so the only reason I think a lot of accountants have gotten business is because taxes are required by law to be completed. But the problem with taxes, as we all know, is that it's commoditized service. There's increasing competition. AI is only going to get worse with that, software. And again, most people don't know the difference between a good and accountant and a bad one. So they just usually get recommended by Bob, the next door neighbor, of who their tax accountant is. Therefore, you can't raise your prices. So in order for the accountant to make more money, what do? They can't take on more clients because they're already working 1 million hours. They also can't raise their prices. So what do? They need to sell something that people value. And every business owner on earth values one thing: having a successful business. Success is defined individually by the business owner, but they still want success. And if you can connect the dots that you, as an accounting professional, can help them have a successful business, you will get a high-paying client. And if you deliver it like a productized CFO service, it's highly scalable because now you can hire people on your team to do it. Every client you have will be using the same system. So it's increasingly scalable. But the best part is you're charging a lot of money. I mean, the average member in the CFO project is charging $1,978 per month per client. $2,000 per month. So if you had 10 clients, you're making $20,000, and it takes about 4 hours per month to provide the service per client. So you're making $20,000 and working 40 hours a month. And that's scalable.
Yeah. And for the people that are wondering, listening to this, going, well, again, like Eric, you're making it sound easy. Here's the thing. And this is not anything new. The most powerful force in the world is the value you hold for yourself. In other words, Ed Milet, who's an influencer and he's got a podcast, he's a brilliant guy, has got a lot of stuff out on this, but he talks about you will get out of life what you think you deserve. And so part of that, I was literally telling people on a rep, we did a launch program. And I was literally telling them, because some of them are saying, well, how do you charge what? I said, you have to understand something. As an accountant, as a tax preparer or bookkeeper, in the military, you're infantry. There's lots of you. You're doing a very set. When someone has a tax problem, we're Green Berets. You're calling in a specialist. Something is wrong, right? They have a balance they don't owe. They're under audit. They're under stress. I said, we are specialists. We are not general physicians for families. I am a cardiac surgeon. I charge accordingly. All right. Listen, these are adults. They can let them go figure out how to run their own business if they want. They can spend every weekend and every night reading books, getting the education. They don't want it. They want you to come in and fix it. All right. And you need to begin viewing yourself. And if people say, well, why is it so expensive? I said, look, if you just want an accountant, a bookkeeper, I can get you, well, not the yellow pages anymore. I don't know if they're around, but you can go online and just find somebody.
Yeah, there's a million.
They're a dime a dozen. If you want somebody strategic to help you grow this is what you're paying for. But remember, you don't have to pay my rate 40 hours. I'm, 4 or 5 hours a month, and, whatever you're going to tell them, we can do this. For rep, I can solve your problem. Now, even if I'm not sure how I'm going to solve it just yet, I can solve your problem. end the sleepless nights. I can end the fighting with your spouse, worrying about levies on your bank account or your wages. There's a premium for that. If I wanted to just sell you a bookkeeping rate, I'd go offer to do your bookkeeping. So it really is, for those of you listening, why go to the CFO project? Why tax? Why any of these? Because you understand you have more value than what they're willing to pay for that return. H&R Block, God bless them, has commoditized that. And people think of it, oh, well, it should be $200, right? People say, well, they're just putting numbers in the software. It's a real art form to do a return properly, for a business or, other than a W-2 employee. You need to understand your own value. Now, at the CFO project, you actually teach them how. I know because I have a bunch of my members that have gone through, and the feedback, because I've got the testimonials inside Tax Rep, have been very good. But the biggest thing I've actually been, someone said, well, the one who said they never got anything. And I said, well, why do you think that is? He said, I never really worked at it. He said, I never really pursued it. And in this conversation, he couldn't get in his head that he was worth that. And I said, why not? And so I gave him a push. I don't know if he actually got back into it, but you understand your value. Go. What CFO Project is going to teach you is, here are the services. Here's how to sell this to them versus, you're just going in and talking about yourself. And their businesses, Dawn Brolin has talked about this when she went to her relationship pricing. Clients were like, well, wait a minute. I mean, I can call you when I need you. Most people don't call their accountant. They don't want to get a bill.
Right.
And then after year end, it's too late. Now it's a postmortem. But if I can call you and I'm thinking about getting a new truck and get help then, or, someone's on top of their numbers if they need to go get a bank line of credit or refinance or whatever, to have someone who is strategically helping them. Most business owners, I think anyone listening to this, you'll be surprised, they'll pay for it. And what might be more shocking is you might think, well, wait a minute, Adam could come in and my client will pay Adam, but he wouldn't pay me. Did you ever make that clear to them what you could offer? Probably not. They probably view you as the tax accountant who does the return.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, what is the response when people come in to the CFO project? I mean, do you have to help them overcome a lot of this stigma that they have?
Yeah. The number one thing we have to help people overcome is this idea of imposter syndrome. They think there's no way I can be a CFO. I'm an accountant. I'm a bookkeeper. I'm a enrolled agent. But the thing is, we have to reframe a couple of things. One, we're not training you to be the CFO for Microsoft tomorrow.
Yep.
We're not. We're training you to be the CFO for a $2.5 million plumbing company in Boise, Idaho. You can do this. Why? Because that business owner is dealing with a couple of main problems. One, that business owner is thinking like a plumber, not a business owner. Because most businesses that are under $5 million are owned by people who are experts at their craft, not an expert at business. So you come along and say, would you like my help to make sure you not only not fail, but make sure you have growing cash flow and have more money? Who's to say no to that? So you're giving them a peace of mind. So we have to reframe in the accountant's mind that you're not expected to be a high level CFO and deal with complex business and financial transactions. That's not at all what we're expecting you to do. We're going to train you, and you should be expected to just help a small business owner do one thing: figure out how to have a successful business defined in two ways. One, however the client defines success. And two, how we as financial professionals should define success, meaning we're going to help a business have consistent positive cash flow. That's success. And if you could do both of those things, help the business owner get their definition of success, and then also get our definition of success, which is cash flow, then you will help a business be successful. And if you're an accounting professional, this is good news because we understand cash flow. Unlike a lot of business coaches and consultants out there who are like leadership coaches or life coaches or sales coaches, they have no idea usually how their advice translates to how it's going to affect cash flow. So we are primed to do this. We just need to change our mindset that we can do it, and we'll have a way more impact on our clients' lives if we do it.
I'd be curious to watch the transition when people come in and getting over imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
to when they exit out the door. And when they leave, they actually have some clients lined up, right? You help them get their first clients.
Yeah, and we have a certification program. In order to get certified, you have to actually get one client. But we have another program. Once you get 3 clients, you can join this program for no additional cost, but it's called Scaling Your Practice, where we'll help you get to $1 million practice. And you have to have at least 3 clients. And we've had, probably almost 40% of our membership accomplish that. So the idea is that every client you add is think of it as on average $24,000 a year in billing for just one client. And by the way, if you have a small business client that's doing 500,000 to 5 million in annual revenue, $24,000 is peanuts to them.
Yep.
To us, to a lot of accountants, they're like, oh, there's no way that somebody will pay me 24 grand a year. But think of like somebody owns a $3 million construction company. They're paying low-skilled laborers, sometimes teenagers, way more than $24,000 a year to do very low-skilled stuff. You're coming in and potentially helping them save their business, keep their employees, expand, and make more money. It's a no-brainer they would spend the money on you. You just have to position it in a way that makes sense. But to do that, you need that confidence. You need to overcome that imposter syndrome.
No,
that's what we spend half our time helping you figure out, overcoming the imposter syndrome, how to actually talk to a business owner to get them to take action, how to keep a client, how to structure an engagement that's an exceptional client experience.
No, I mean, with tax rep, I tell my tax rep members, I'm going to teach you the RCP formula, which is the cornerstone for offers and all that stuff everyone's interested in. The process, I mean, give me one day, you'll master all that.
Yeah.
The biggest obstacle is getting them to understand that they can ask for that money. And even for me, this was sort of baby steps. But once you get to the other side, you almost think like, why didn't I do this sooner? Really?
More confidence. There's this thing called the competence loop, where most people think that in order to take action, in order to go out and get advisory clients and be a CFO, they have to have the competence to do so first. But that's in life, that just doesn't happen. You have to take action first, which builds your competence, which then builds your confidence. And then that translates into more action. It's like somebody learning to ride a bike. Like you can't say, well, I'm not going to get on a bike until I've learned everything there is to know about riding a bike. I'm going to watch YouTube videos and read books. You have to actually get on the bike, take action slowly but surely. You'll build your competence. Then your competence improves, which means your confidence will improve, which then means you'll get back on that bike over and over and over. We got to start by taking action. So that, that's, we like to kick people out of the nest very quickly and help them take action.
Well, like you support them. Same thing with tax rep. When people join, well, when should I start trying to get clients? Now, today.
Yes.
I tell them, if you get a client today, let's say they have a payroll problem, which can be complicated. You have the business, you have the individual with the trust fund assessment. I'm like, if you get a case and you have no idea what to do, that's why you're here. Go to the help desk, be like, Eric, got my first payroll case. No fucking idea what I'm doing. No problem. I mean, yes, we have training on it. We can walk you through it. And because, nothing to it but to do it. You need to get out and just get going. Joe Rogan there's a quote of him going around, but he said, you'd be amazed what you can accomplish if you just show up and get to work. And it is just, you get going, right? You just go and get started and you'll figure it out. And remember something, if you're really that concerned, and I had this when I was going to start public speaking, I had this idea for this tax rep thing and I pitched it to CCH and they bought it. They want me to do webinars. They want me to come out there and record. I mean, I got shot down by everybody else first. I mean, it was kind of a low point, but they are the ones that believed in it. And before I left to fly out there, I had this moment where I was like, I can't do this. Who am I? I'm going to go record. I knew I was friends with the big players across the country at the American bar that did this. And I can't do this. And I spoke to my mentor, Sidney Kess, who has since passed away. Anyone in tax, my generation or older, knows Sid. Sid built the AICPA's Engage conference. He built CCH's Users Conference. He is in the AICPA Hall of Fame. There's a Sid Kess medal. There's a book about Sid, the Sid Kess approach to life and practice. Brilliant guy, died. He was 90, Sid 95. Anyway, doesn't matter. I call Sid. I'm like, I don't think I can do this. I'm going to embarrass myself. Who am I? Blah, blah, blah. He said, Eric, first of all, the real big mucky mucks, they're not buying this product. They're not watching you. They don't care. Okay. So the idea that everyone's watching you, this is almost like high school. Like everyone's going to watch me and see that they're all busy. No one fucking cares.
Yeah.
And he said, first of all, you just have to be a little smarter than the other people on the webinar. That's all you need to do. He said, don't try to bullshit. All right. And I'm like, I don't know. He finally said, look, you've been pitching this now for a year. You built this thing, whatever. This is your opportunity. You got the door open. Either go through or go home. And I was like, well, I'm not going home. So I'm just gonna, it was fine. It was better than fine. And the point is, to your point, for those of you listening who say, am I really a CFO, whatever, remember something. You only have to know a little more about this than the plumber.
Right.
And by the way, I have to tell you, we get this all the time. I actually have a webinar I do, which is my biggest screw ups. And it came from, would have people that would message me, you're brilliant. Really, trust me, Adam's hung around with me. I'm not. All right. Anyone who's hung around with me, I'm not. We get cases in here where Jeff and I look at each other. We're like, I don't know what to do. I mean, it's a mess. Now, again, in rap, you start with compliance and whatever. CFO, first of all, you start with unraveling what they have, right? And then what do we need to do? You just need to be a little bit smarter than the business owner. But the point here is, and again, if for those of you listening, hopefully you're past this. You know that you don't have imposter syndrome. You can do this, all right? And if you're looking for a way to just get started, all right? I'm saying this because I surveyed my tax rep members. After you were on the first time, Adam, I surveyed them who had gone through and what did you think? Because honestly, depending on feedback do I want to have a relationship? And the feedback, I think it was 9 folks responded. 8 of them loved it. They thought it was fantastic, worth every dime. And I told you about the one who admitted that he didn't pursue it. And when you pushed him, he couldn't get himself there mentally. Yeah. And I think I pushed him. I'm hoping, in fact, I should follow up with them and may say, hey, so what are we doing with CFO services now? Yeah. All right. How's that going? All right. You can do this. All right. So Adam, how do folks listening get in? I mean, where would they start?
Yeah, there's a couple options. One, we have tons of free training on our website. So the CFOproject.com, THECFOproject.com. There's tons of free trainings. But the thing is, we want to make sure this is a right fit for you and your firm. And even if you don't have a firm, if you're an employed accountant, we can show you how to start a firm on the side doing this. We want to make sure it's a right fit. So we just encourage you to get on what we call a right fit call. It's just a 30-minute Zoom call with one of our enrollment advisors. We'll give you a behind the scenes tour. We'll talk with you and make sure that this is going to be a good fit for you and it's a good fit for us. We're not high pressured people. We want you to join if you're excited about doing this. So you can find all that on our website, thecfoproject.com. You can join one of our upcoming Right Fit calls or just take one of those free trainings.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the description below. If anyone here is going to Scaling New Heights in Orlando in 2 weeks, I think it starts on the June 21st, I think. I'm going to be there. I'm speaking. I know you guys are going to be there. I think you're across the aisle from us.
Yeah, we're close. June 23rd.
June 23rd.
Yes, we'll be there. We have a booth. Yeah, we are sort of near each other.
Yeah, no. And you could always stop by, swing in, talk to Adam, talk to Anne Marie, who's also there, who I know. So my wife is very involved in a very large foundation. It's large enough and backed by a billionaire so that she knows a lot of the other people involved out in Silicon Valley who are behind AI and all that stuff. So she was talking about, about the whole automation, whatever. They've actually told her AI is going to do, bookkeeping can be automated, return prep automated. They said, not only is it not there, they don't know that it'll ever get there to take over human being strategic thinking. So in many ways, the high-end tax advisor, the CFO, the rep or the litigator who needs to, where there's nuance, where you need to bring expertise, they said not only is it not there, two of the three told her they don't know that it'll ever get there. And one of them pointed out, because she said it's not going to become the Matrix. They said, point of order, the Matrix collapsed because it couldn't do that. AI is not the idea that AI will replace human beings completely is probably never going to happen. And it's certainly not going to happen, they thought, in our lifetime.
Totally. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
It's
So the
it's why
real
it's
opportunity is we need to move into that where we can charge more. By the way, get control of your life. Don Brolin, I called Don because I had an issue on April 14th. And historically, I would have gotten a, what the fuck are you doing calling me on April 14th? I couldn't get her. I'm like, she's got to be crazy. No, she called me back around 5. She's like, I was golfing. I
you
just wasn't
serious.
answering my
That's
phone.
amazing.
And I said, tomorrow's the 15th. She's like, yeah, I don't know. We're out in the boat. She said, my stuff's done. I automated everything. Listio, Grunt works. My clients are all on, except for a handful of elderly people that she's had forever. She said, everyone else is on our relationship pricing. They pay monthly because I want them calling and speaking to me. She said, because I'm effectively their CFO. And I said, they don't balk at it. She said, the moment I could explain that I am available to you to help you in real time make decisions, people were like, I'll sign up.
Yes, no brainer.
No brainer. I was going to say, and for everyone listening, just get started. And by the way, what's the worst thing that'll happen? You get started and the client says no. Okay, I got news for you. We're running a webinar for entrepreneurs on how to write off your life, how to write off your vacation, your home office, all that stuff on July 18th. I'm sure there are people that aren't going to want it. There are 33 million of them. I only need what, 100, right? I mean, it's so. There are probably 50 businesses within 3 miles of you that need help. You only need half a dozen, and you've
Right.
got a killer business going.
Totally. The neighbor moved in he was cutting his grass like 3 days after he moved in. I was walking my dog. We stopped to introduce each other. He asked what I did, and I explained I help business owners have a growing and successful business. Turns out he owns a welding business, a large welding manufacturing business. 4 days later, he became a client for a very long time. Like, that was people need this. You just have to talk like a talk like talk in a way that resonates with business owners. They need it.
You know what we should do? We should start a new membership I'm serious, on the psychology. We should become the new psychotherapist. I don't know if we can actually use that term. I think that's a legal term, but become the new therapist for accountants. Okay. Where we can tell you, are you enough? Do you remember Dennis Leary, the
Oh,
comedian?
yes, the comedian, he was on SNL, wasn't he? Yeah.
He was, they did a roast of him. He actually has his No Cure for Cancer. It's kind of crude, but he opens with, people going to the therapist. He said, that's, these people were whining all the time. He's like, shut the fuck up. He said, that's going to be the name of my new book, Shut the Fuck Up by Dr. Dennis Leary. And I'm going to have people come to me, doctor, I can't shut the fuck up. Next. Shut the fuck up. Next. And he said, they're going to walk out and be like, he just told me to shut the fuck up. I feel so much better now. You just got to get over it. And so I think we could start a whole therapy session on this.
I
The
love it.
point is, the point is, if you're listening, you can do this. All right. I don't even care if you're not a CPA or EA. If you're just a bookkeeper, you already know 95% more than the business owner about their books.
Yes.
So, and there's no degree necessary to be a CFO. I met a CFO that has a high school degree, and she's sharp as tacks. Didn't have money to go to college, got involved in a restaurant business, learned it from the owner, moved over and became, for lack of a better term, a controller of a 5 restaurant person group. And she's a CFO, makes, I think, 350,000 a year. First estate planning. She came to me, high school degree,
Yeah.
but just
CFO is
started to
just a
learn the
title.
business. Like, I can do this.
It's just a title. It's what you make up, what you explain to a prospect. That's how they think of a CFO. So we just need to explain it in a way that makes sense to them and sells them the end result that they want.
And as a CFO, I imagine, Adam, that when they place this, it's more of a very set schedule. I think you have the off questions, but it's not like you got a tax season. Now you have year-end planning, probably some things like that, but I would imagine, it's a much more managed lifestyle.
Yeah. The bulk of the work, I mean, 2 hours a month per client, you can do it in the middle of the night if you want. It doesn't matter. There is no deadline. And then you just meet with your client. And the thing is, most business owners, they don't really require any handholding outside of the meeting once a month because they know what to do. And by the way, even if we're not helping a business actually improve their profit and cash flow, they still like the idea that they have somebody that they could trust to just talk to. So going back to the therapy, the human to human connection, people want a confidant, a sounding board, somebody that gets it, that doesn't have an agenda. We're on their side, whatever that looks like. We don't have an agenda. We want to help them. And they love that because there's not that many people. And think of the average small business owner. They can't bring home baggage to their spouse. They could talk to their friends, but their friends who are not entrepreneurs just don't get it. They can't turn to their banker. A lot of people try to go to their accountant, but their accountant is either too busy or doesn't have time to help them, or gives them surface level advice because they don't have time to help them.
Right.
I mean, who do they turn to? Nobody.
Right. No. And so I'm wearing, for those of you who are not watching this on the YouTube channel, commit tax fraud is my shirt. It's one of our goof shirts. But as part of this, Adam, and for everyone listening, I did not do criminal tax work until I joined a firm with two former senior IRS trial attorneys. All right. And that's what they did. And they said, do you want to do this? Understand, you are going to work with guilty people. You're going to work with people that are going to prison. And it's not for everybody. And when we started, I remember feeling this worthlessness because I couldn't solve the problem. And in fact, when I first started, I was getting cases killed left and right with IRS. Meaning I convinced them that it's not fraud. And so I'm like on a streak. I'm like, oh, this is easy. Until I got one where it wasn't. And they had dead to rights. And I was talking to I can't, why are they paying? I can't help them. And they're like, they're paying because someone has to shepherd them through this process. A lot of the fear is from the unknown.
Yeah.
And the fact that you come in and you can explain what's going to happen, you can, keep everything calm. It also helps the spouse because there's a voice of reason in the room because they're going to get themselves all wound up. And there's truth to that. So like you said, even if you're not necessarily growing the top line or the bottom line significantly, the fact that you're there as a resource, a sounding board, provide either advice or frankly, just to confirm what they're thinking, there's value to that.
Yeah.
And your time is valuable.
Yeah.
So no, this has been great. Listen, I'm going to put the link below. I would recommend for the CPAs, EAs listening, and the bookkeepers listening to this, go and check out, because this is an easy add-on to what you're already doing. And I know I have one member, one of those 9 that messaged me, said the CFO stuff has gone so well, they are looking to sell their tax prep practice. Just, think about it. If you could take your laptop, go to Florida for the winter or California, wherever, because you can do your job from anywhere.
Yeah.
Most people, even my clients, they want to meet by Zoom. They don't want me to come to their office the criminal cases, they want to come in and sit with us. For the most part, they're like, nah, can't we just do this on Zoom? Sure. No problem. Have laptop. I can go wherever I want. So
we have a lady in the program who calls herself the nomad CFO because she literally is in an RV and just travels around. She works from her RV.
Yeah. Oh no, especially with what is Elon Musk, that the Wi-Fi, the Starlink or whatever. My understanding is that works really well. I've not tried it myself, but yeah, no, we have one of the software founders, software companies in my space, the founders, they've got one of those Airstreams, and they love to camp, and he and his wife go all over the country, and he can do webinars and everything. He said Starlink is amazing. But the point is this is something value added. They cannot just automate. They cannot just go to an H&R Block and get. So you differentiate yourself. You get to charge appropriately. And frankly, I think you're going to find the work more rewarding than simply banging out returns or getting stuff into QuickBooks, which again is just viewed as a commodity. So I will put the link to thecfoproject.com in the description. If you are going to be in Orlando at Scaling New Heights, come by the tax rep booth, go see the CFO project. They're going to be there. And this is something that I think people should really be thinking about, especially with the chaos we're seeing at the IRS and everything else going forward. So
100% agree.
As always, thank you for doing this again. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. We'll be in Orlando together.
Sounds good. Thanks, Eric.
All right. And everyone, thanks for tuning into the Tax Rep Network podcast. Check out the link below. And otherwise, see you next week.